So this is the Mastermind Clean and Declutter. And some people may ask, well, what does that have to do with health, food, and coaching, right? What does that have to do with getting your body in good shape, etc.? Well, for me, it is very, very closely linked. How we are able to create our immediate environment. And I'm looking at my room in the back here, and I feel that there is still too much clutter, and we'll do the exercise here now to quickly clean up. There's a time slot in this mastermind where you have 10 minutes to decide on cleaning up one corner of your house or your purse or your bathroom, for that matter, but that's in your house too. Just for that experience of creating a space around us. When I was teaching teachers, Waldorf teachers in particular, in Namibia, and I was proposing that we need to, or I was emphasizing and elaborating on that we need to raise our children with more of a consciousness that I create the world. So I wanted to think, or wanted to teach the teachers to, for themselves, get to that sense. Allow your children to feel that I create the world. And whether that's just your tiny little corner, or whether that's a big political movement, like think of Nelson Mandela or Gandhi, you know, I create the world starts right here in my immediate environment, in my brain. And my brain, unfortunately, is so hard to re-pattern, to reshape, to reform. And we all know that, because just like the world is impacted by all the belief systems and by all the patterns that were packed upon our poor little brain when we were babies, right? You got to do this, you can't do that. No, 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 no was the biggest word we heard, right? Cutting us down, cutting us down. No, it's always the boss knows best, the father knows best, the teacher knows best, the God knows best, all of these systems piled upon us so that we become incapable, or almost incapable, of actually having purpose and goals in our life. We then have superficial goals of, oh, a career, I need to make this much money, or I need to have this status, or I need to have these clothes, or I need to go to this restaurant, etc. You can see where I'm going with that, right? And while we have the illusion, if you will, that we have this free will, we want freedom, right? Freedom is the big word. We don't realize that our world is so predestined by all these patterns that impact upon our free will, because we don't develop our own creativity enough to create the space around us and to create the patterns in our brain. So this sounds all very big, but it's really also very mundane, because whether I have, you know, I'm just going to show you, whether I have flowers on my desk, see these blue irises on my desk, or whether I sit in piled up plates. Actually, just thinking of that because my son just left, and he often sits in piled up plates in his room because he is not there yet where it matters to him to create his, he will from every other week, right? It's big cleanup day. But yes, we all, if we want to be co-responsible for the path our life is taking, for the health of our physical body and of our mind, then we have to learn to repeatedly declutter those patterns, declutter the things on our desk, because yes, there are the irises here, but behind there is a big pile, and that's what I'm going to clear up, of paperwork that all didn't get done here, right? And that is just sitting there. And because I'm not in need of having that, I let it pile up. And that ultimately adds to the clutter in my brain and adds to the clutter in my life and to the lack of clarity that can lead to what happened to me this morning. It just went out in the last email I sent out 10 minutes ago. I found myself crying upon waking up for no apparent reason. It's not that I'm dying or was diagnosed or I'm in pain or have some other experience, somebody died, or nothing, none of that. I'm not being evicted. I'm not, nothing tragic. I found myself crying because of a lack of clear goals in my life right now. There's so much I'm doing. I'm working from morning to night on this, on that, and the other. And it doesn't have clarity. So thankfully, I have children who are wonderful, who I can turn to, who are like therapists. We therapize each other. And my son was sitting with me, talking through what's going on, Mom. No, you can't just say, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. No, you can't. We got to talk through this now. That's also part of that brain clearing, right? We need to have people, other human beings to talk to put ourselves back into perspective and into clarity. Okay, what I really feel is the most necessary thing to do, what I really know. Well, the feeling is almost more important than the knowing, right? Because our intellect can drive us to all kinds of delusional, superficial stuff. If I make these $20,000 and then the other $50,000, and then I have enough money in order to do this big project that I always wanted to do, that's all calculation. But if our heart isn't really wanting that, we keep self-doubting. Even if our heart is not really wanting that, we keep self-doubting ourselves if we don't rein back into a clear goal. So a brief discussion of what is clean. What concepts do we have of a clean environment, right? I have lived in multiple different cultures, from Germany to Switzerland to Romania to Namibia that I just mentioned, to Zimbabwe. I lived in Zimbabwe for 4.5 years and was married there, so I was very close to a very different culture. I have lived in Norway and in Scotland, and I've visited countries in South America and so forth. So I've seen a bit of humanity and how humanity lives, and how different cultures have different concepts of clean. But shocker, I found that all other cultures had more clarity and naturalness about what they considered clean and orderly and decluttered than this here country, our United States. It was shocking to me that after having lived in so many different countries and cultures, I came to a country where you have, yes, you have the European concept imported, and for the wealthy, you have other people do the tidying up and the cleaning up for us. But even some of the relatively wealthy, and as you know, I'm a professor, so I've started out at Columbia University translating and working for other professors. And I've been to many of their homes, and some of their homes were so utterly dysfunctional in terms of orderliness and cleanliness. And that is not, that doesn't have anything to do with sanitizing. You have sanitizing spray, right? Nothing to do with chlorinating anything. It has only to do with creating an aesthetic that mimics and goes a little bit beyond that aesthetic that nature actually has. Go out into any woods, go out into any desert, and look at the aesthetics and how animals keep their spaces. Look at a beaver and how animals keep their spaces, right? We should have those basic instincts too, that we keep things in an orderly manner according to our species. Of course, a bird's nest is different from a beaver house. I don't even know what that's called. Or for that matter, an elephant's sleeping place. So every creature on the planet has some orderliness. And we, because of our ability to create, we can go beyond that and make things extra wonderful, and that's why we created what? Art. Art is something that is completely beyond the aesthetics of nature, right? So because we have that ability to be creative, we also have the ability to lose that. Hey, Ed, you need to say hello, even though I'm in the middle of the presentation here. So back to what happens to human beings when we lose that cultural hold that a particular creativity of creating our environment consists of. People will think, well, in Africa, they're so poor, they live in these shacks, etc. Guess why? Because we, the Europeans, took everything away from them: land, culture, and belief systems, so that people are pushed into these unsavory living environments. But here in the US of A, people almost voluntarily live in clutter. The concept of hoarding had never been in my realm of awareness. I had never heard of such a thing, that there's hoarding. And I think it has something to do with the lack of an old culture, repeating itself, and this fear of loss. And, we have to keep it, we have to keep it, we have to keep it, because somebody is going to steal it, or somebody else has more. It's a weird thing that we have in the North American context of clutter. So how can we use our own ability to have creativity, to create spaces that allow us to be mentally more clear and mentally more directed toward the goals, the calling that we really think we have in this life? And I don't mean that in a religious sense whatsoever. I think that's actually dangerous. Because in the name of religious callings, the Crusades had millions of people murdered, etc. And of course, you can extrapolate from that. Use our creative abilities and our freedom to decide to create beautiful spaces. And I just see in Shirley's room, which I see without Shirley in it, that something is happening there. Daniel, what is happening in Shirley's space? This is not what it normally looks like. I don't know whether you all can only see the speaker, right? Yeah.
No, we can see.
You can see? Okay, good. Somebody took herself out. All right, so how does that impact our sense of accomplishment, our sense of confidence, our sense of direction, and ultimately satisfaction with our life? You know, most of us here are not in our youth. Most of us here have lived and have gathered lots of experiences and are at a point where we would want to one more time put those experiences put them out there for a purpose, right? Have a purpose in our contributing to life. So if we want to make sense of why we accumulated all these experiences, and hopefully not all the clutter, or only a little bit of clutter that we can handle. Oh, Barbara says your son is wonderful for listening to you and seeking clarity. Yes, yeah. If we allow our children to grow into their own, it's amazing how they become partners in life. And we don't have to be, you know, there used to be a saying, you know, you should never be the friend of your children. You should always be the parent. I think that needs to be toppled exactly the other way around. You should be a friend of your child first, and then a parent. Because when you allow your child to express what they want, seek, and allow your child to participate, for example, in creating decluttering and cleaning, then they have a sense of co-responsibility and they have a sense of I matter. And immediately the confidence is raised, their own clarity as to what they want in life becomes easier, and they will still each do a very different thing. My daughter is doing her PhD in psychology. My son says, I don't need to go to more of college. I want to do me now. And it's perfectly fine, right? You don't have to have a cookie cutter approach. To the contrary, if you allow creativity to reign. So what I wanted to do as an experiment in this mastermind is for each and every one of you, because I've already talked for 20 minutes, to right now, you can put it in the chat. What do you want to clear up in your physical environment for the next 10 minutes? And then we're going to ask, what do you want to clear out in your brain? A pattern that is holding you back, that is messing with you again and again. Yeah, like I was reminded this morning. So I already told you what my task is. It's the corner of my desk where everything is piled up. So that's what I'm going to do. And I want you to decide. I'm giving you 2-3 minutes to decide. And then I'm going to say go. And within 10 minutes, I would love it if you take a picture, if you have your phone nearby, if you're not on your phone right now, or even if you're on your phone, you can do it. Take a picture of the before and then the after. Even what we can do even in 10 minutes is amazing. So I already took my before picture. Yeah. And everybody write down either in the chat or just for you. Okay, Barbara is saying my desk. Okay, for the 10 minutes. And for my brain, I want to decide how I will use my time today. Great. Yeah, every day we have that. All right. Everybody knows what they want to do? Then I'm going to say 1, 2, 3. Let's put the clock on. Stopwatch. Now. All right. Oh no, you see that I'm only wearing shorts. I forgot about that. It's hot here. Okay. Here. That goes there. Books are in here. I didn't even realize. And a big book from 2016. Use that again. I think. Beautiful. Desks are terrible because so many memories and little things come up. But we're here. Only 3 minutes have passed. That's amazing. And look at that. I'm halfway done. That. Wow. Here we go. Corner clear, 8 minutes in. Okay, somebody asking if there will be a recording. All right, if you're getting close to being done with your corner, come on back. So trying to upload so I can show you. Yeah, this. Yeah, I want this. And some reason. There we go. Here we go. Okay. Well, this is the after. All right. Are you all back? Our 10 minutes are up. Let me see. Yeah, we're at 11. So, is that a crazy little experiment? Ed, what did you do? You need to unmute yourself. We can't hear you.
just clearing out some stuff off my phone.
Yes, bravo. That is awesome. Because that's another way we clutter, right? We have
Yeah.
this
Oh,
phone
yeah.
full of stuff and we're endlessly scrolling. Yeah, bravo. Excellent idea.
Okay, Joanna?
Yes. Shirley, what
Yeah,
did you do?
because of my wet macular degeneration, I've accumulated lots of notebook paper, and then I write little notes on envelopes. And then it's hard for me to read if I write too fast. I was a beautiful writer before. But
So what did you do to declutter?
well, I was just trying to aiming to put the envelopes together, and then the notebook paper. But I can't do the computer like I was so fast, and I had a master's in technology before, but because of my eyes, this is hard. And I've been very goal oriented all my life, inner directed.
That is wonderful. So, but you still tried to tidy up your envelopes, right?
And my notebook paper.
And your notebook paper. Wonderful. And for everybody to know, Shirley is in her mid-80s and a very active young lady.
Yes.
Shirley,
And
can you see your face for a minute? Oh, you don't have the camera.
no, my face, during COVID, I neglected my teeth because of my taking care of my husband.
I know. Okay, we forgive you. It's all good. I just wanted to show everybody you're 80. How old are you now? 85, 86?
I'm going to, yes, 86, I'm going to be 87, and I am still raw food.
You eat a lot of raw food. Cool.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful. All right. So, yeah, I just had another conversation with Nancy Gordon, another client of mine who's not here today, but is going to watch this later, who's 87 and still walks up and down to the Hudson River and back up to her house, which is like a mile, up the hill. All right, Barbara, what did you do? You need to unmute yourself. Doesn't work? Okay. When you get there. Linda, what did you do?
I organized some papers that I have with me. I actually am sitting in my parked car. I had to drive someplace where I could hook up to Wi-Fi. So I'm roasting in the hot car.
Oh, open all your windows.
So I just worked on whatever I had with me.
Got you. Wonderful. And Janet, what did you do?
Well, most important of all, I found money. I found a check that's actually not for me, but it's for a friend that used to stay here, and I still get a lot of mail for her. And this I had opened and told her about, and I thought I sent it to her, but apparently I didn't, because I just found a check. And I also found two important pieces of mail, one for me and one for my husband, that from IRS, saying we had some sort of additional refund coming. At least that's what mine said. His wasn't opened. And other than that, I took piles and sorted them. And so it's much more organized. Right now, it doesn't look better, but it is a lot more organized than it was. And I have a big pile to file, which is always my problem. I have a lot of problems, or a lot of piles, some in boxes and things that are really to file. And I never get around to that.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about, how we can help ourselves with all of that in a minute. So I'm going to just, wonderful. So everybody did actually find something physically to clear. And Barbara texted that she also did her desk, right?
Yeah.
Oh, now I can hear you.
Yes, yeah, I texted my desk and I have a lot of things wired to my wired things, and I untangled all the wires that are connected to my computer. So that's good.
Wonderful. So yes, and how good it feels, how much we can get done in just 10 minutes. So I'm going to show you that I'm going to try and share the before and after of my desk here, that corner. Can you see the pile of
Yeah.
papers here? All right, that's the before. And now I'm going to go to the after. Where's the after? Oh, let me see. Oh, I have to separately do it. Yes. On this Post-its. And here is the after picture. See
minute.
how clear that corner is? All gone, that whole pile. And it actually wasn't very difficult to sort it into where it needs to go in my various systems. So,
Great.
okay,
Fabulous.
now, don't we all wish that it were as easy to clear the clutter in our brain? Not just clutter, but the old patterns that keep coming back and grasp us. What kind of patterns are there that have a hold on us? Can you give me some suggestions either in the chat or just unmute yourself and talk?
I might need this. That kind of things we say to ourselves, like I might need this.
Yes. The things we say to ourselves. Yeah, what comes from the past? What comes from our past patterns? From our childhood?
Don't waste.
Mhm.
Don't waste. Don't waste it.
Don't waste. Oh, you're talking about gathering things and keeping things because we're
Yeah.
not wasting them. Yes,
Yeah.
okay, that was, I might need this. So now I'm putting it into context. Yes,
Right.
I might need this, so let me keep this. And before we know it, we've hoarded all sorts of stuff
Right.
that are just cluttering up our spaces.
Right.
And at the same time, they're cluttering up our brain because our brain constantly starts to try and figure, well, how can I use this? What can I make with this?
Right.
And just to give you an example from me, of course, but I also mean patterns like never being praised for what you do as a child. You know, my parents were of the opinion praise is especially my grandmother, actually more than my parents. You know, if I give you praise, it's going to make you conceited or too proud, and pride was like a really bad thing in her eyes, you know, right? So don't praise, just criticize, so that they're always trying to get better, right? And what happens then is we self-criticize all the
Right.
time and become smaller and smaller and smaller. So
Right.
yeah, I like to be very graphic. Yeah, so that's a pattern, right? That we self-doubt all the time because we were raised like that. Does anybody else have patterns like that from childhood?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us are probably at the age of that mentality from parents that were in war times and things when we had to collect and save and just in case and all those things.
Yes. And how about the self-confidence, especially for us
Yeah,
of our generation?
I guess it's damaged from that.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Ed? What kind of patterns do you find in your brain that hold you back? Unmute.
Unmute, unmute, unmute.
Unmute, unmute, unmute.
Yeah, I think hoarding brought on from my parents' generation as well. Yeah.
Also hoarding?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Your space looks very clear there, though. You don't have anything around you, but we don't see
Well,
much.
You don't
Maybe
see the rest of the place. Yeah.
on the side there. I'm trying to look around the corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barbara, can you do sign language?
Oh, I can talk now.
Yeah, no, I mean, I mean.
No, I
because-
know, I can't do
Okay,
sign.
because I'm looking for somebody who, I have a client who wants their daughter who signs, you know, to take the coaching class that I teach, but I need to find somebody who can translate. So I just thought, oh, maybe Barbara knows how to sign.
Right. I'll ask my teenage friend if she's knows enough sign to do that for you.
Mm-hmm, wonderful. So yeah, those patterns, but also the patterns of, yeah, the self-doubt for me is a very big thing. And the patterns of, well, I'm just being lazy. I don't know enough how to do this. I guess one of the aspects of that is imposter syndrome, right? I'm just not good enough. Who am I to go out there and talk or think that I have all this knowledge? And then we don't implement. Another pattern, I think, is that goes with the hoarding that all of you seem to have some of, is accumulating learning, and never taking action to actually
Right.
use, right?
Right.
On
Right.
our own initiative, right? Or always waiting for somebody to tell us what to do, because we are in our generation especially, we're so used to being told what to do and what not to do, that, and always to learn. And so, you know, we take all these online courses and watch these videos, and
Right.
or we take another course at the university, and it's never good enough for some reason for us to take action and implement. And of course, that's particularly true when we are at retirement age and we were used to being employed and having a job to fulfill. And now we want to do all these new things, but we don't know how to self-initiate. And I want to give you a little example, you know, for people for whom it's even harder. I just, my friends are at my house who are running a craft show, and they brought their 21-year-old autistic son with them. And he is not very good at looking after himself, but he's very verbal and he can be very funny. And so he has great qualities, also great memory, etc. But he said to me in the car when I said, you know, when he said, you know, my father always wants me to talk to the customers, you know, because they're at this crafts fair. And of course, you know, people come by in droves, and you're supposed to engage the potential customers. And for an autistic child, that is really, really difficult, because there's always that socialization anxiety. So he was saying, you know, my father wants me to talk to people, and I can talk when somebody talks to me, but I have such a hard time initiating. I just can't initiate a conversation. And I thought to myself, that's exactly, you know, what we're all struggling with. It's just even more in an autistic child, because the brain is in many cases chemically injured as a child, and or, you know, just configured like that. So we all have some of that, right? That fear of initiating an activity, whether it's talking to a stranger or whether it's going and actually buying the stuff that we now want to eat for our healthier food, or whether it's deciding I'm going to allow myself to go get a massage because it's good for me, or whatever it is, or I'm going to get into this business, I'm becoming a, whatever it is. Yeah, one of my clients is just saying, I think I'm going to go into this networking business, but I still have to initiate and talk to more people, because every time I promote the product, right, I have to talk to new people. And I just said, well, we could also say, and it's interesting that one of my clients in my last 12-month class was saying that, you know, actually all of life is sales, because we're always sharing something of our own and or getting something from the other person, whether it's a service or a smile or a good or a bread or whatever it is, right? Or a piece of clothing. All of life is sales. So once we get to that understanding, we no longer have the fear of saying, I have this to offer. Do you want this? Oh, sorry, I made somebody wait here. Who's coming on? Hi, Mary, unmute yourself and say hello. So we're way in, but you can catch up on the rest by listening to the recording. So we are at the brain decluttering phase of this mastermind. Brain decluttering being very much more complicated than the physical decluttering, which we all managed to do brilliantly. Everybody did it, which is unusual. So good. We had nobody saying, I'm not doing that. That was pretty neat. So yeah, the brain decluttering involves learning to take initiative, learning to take action, to actually change habits so that a new imprint can happen in our brain. Years ago, when I was called to co-found a new type of school for ADHD and dyslexic children, you know, who need a much more creative approach, a much more engaged approach, but many of whom are very highly gifted. I was talking to experts like brain and experts and neurology experts. And there's this one brain scientist, Dr. Gerhard Hücher in Germany, who explained that every time we create a new physical pattern in our life, and this is where the two sides come together, that's why we're doing the physical exercise and the mental one. Every time we physically change a pattern in our life, literally our neural pathways in the brain are reconfigured.
Right.
And I think that is just so important to realize, you know, that with everything we physically do, we impact our physical brain and therewith our mental abilities and our mental functioning. And of course, it also works the other way around, but it's harder to get that done. Every time we change our mental attitude, it's easier to do physical things, right? Or different for the physical behavior. But it's much easier. And that's why now many psychologists are also realizing that allowing people to get physically involved in something, for example, helping other people. You know, there's this famous book that my daughter read when she was 12 and then read many times. It's kind of her baseline for her studies in psychology. It's called Reviving Ophelia. And it's about these young girls working with a psychologist who are self-destructive, who are anorexic or cutting themselves or have survived suicide attempts, etc. When they get physically involved in working in soup kitchens, in working in a hospice, helping old people clean their butts and helping, when we get physically involved and engaged in meaningful new patterns, our mental stability benefits. And we repattern our own, and I think I should apply that to my experience this morning, waking up crying, because there isn't enough pattern and active involvement in my life right now to repattern for the next big project. Last year at this time, I was creating the university that we're building, and right now it's on ice because we need to raise the money to put the first online classes into action. So that's the position where we are. When we physically help ourselves clarify, clean, and declutter our brain and mentality, clear and declutter as well, or have an easier time doing so. All right, so let's do one more little exercise, and we're over our time already, and that is, there's also a part of our brain that just rebalances itself when we allow it to just happen, or we pose a question and we see what answer comes while we just relax into a kind of a meditative state for a couple of minutes. And before we go into this exercise, I need to put it out there, of course, that everybody is invited to join the June rejuvenation, which is a lot of the physical stuff, the fitness, the making the smoothies, the finding food that in the wild that has better energy, etc., and the planning of life in the Super Happy Body class. That is the focus on what am I going to do for the next 5 years. So everybody is invited to talk to me personally to how any of those programs would benefit you if you wanted to. So, and I mean, you all have my email address. If you're getting my emails, you can just respond to those or put in the chat that you would like a spot for a one-on-one consultation. I do these free 20-minute consultations that we can offer so that you can figure out where it might be helpful for you to participate. All right, now we're going to each ask ourselves, where do I want to be next year at this time? And if you have two options, put those two options out there. Well, I could either do this or that. Or if you have one option, just put that out there and ask yourself, how will I get there? What's the next step? And then don't analyze, calculate, and do the numbers, so to speak, but just allow yourselves to relax into that question and see what comes up. Sometimes very bizarre people come up, bizarre things or people come up when people ask these questions. And then we'll talk about it. And I'm going to give us just 2 minutes. Yeah, my instinct is just 2 minutes. Okay, and we're going to start now. Of course, take some deep breaths and then ask the questions. Where will I be next year? Or do I want to be? Ooh, the stuff that comes up right away. I did not think so. Interesting. Yeah. Too long leads into thinking, and that's not what we want to do. We don't want to think, we just want to allow things to appear. And here it is. Now, there are, of course, various ways of allowing our brain to sort itself out in this manner. I used to, when I had two options or more for a path to pursue over the next time, I would go to bed with the question and would ask my brain or my spirit, whatever you want to call it, to figure it out, and I'll wake up knowing, right? So we can also do that. And if you do that several days, it will clarify, it will clear itself. So this one was interesting. Does anybody want to start, or do you want to hear why I was laughing?
We want to hear why you were laughing.
Well, I'm 69 and going to be 70 in a couple of months, but I am embarking on a new relation, not so new, but on a relationship that is getting serious. And my first image came up was a lovely situation with this new relationship. So that, how to get there is the big question, but that seemed very clear that that is what is maybe priority. And of course, life has to organize itself around that. Yeah. All right. What came up that was surprising for you guys? I have all these projects, but it's interesting to me even that the relationship came up as the first thing.
This is Janet.
Yes.
I was surprised right away it came up. Well, gee, look what you did in 10 minutes. If you could just discipline yourself to take even 15, 20 minutes a day and do this every day, and then maybe a little more time on Saturday or Sunday days, you have more time, more free time. Think, how wonderful life could be. I have, little piles and too much of everything all over the house that we live in, but we also have an attic that is just completely full of stuff, mostly a lot from my family memorabilia that was kind of passed on to me because nobody else wanted it and whatever. And I mean, I just can't imagine how in the rest of my life I can get that done. And I had a professional organizer come in, and I'm not willing to pay what that's going to cost, because if I just set my mind to it, I can do it.
There you go. But
and
you know what we
so-
all need? We all need accountability partners.
Yeah.
And why this worked here in this circle is because we held each other accountable, right? Because we knew we were going to have to talk about having done it.
Mhm.
So accountability partners is what we, in all coaching and learning and professorial, of course, circles need, right? If my students know that I'm going to read their papers and they have to complete them by a certain time, they will do it. If I never have any interest in what they do, they're much less likely to do it.
Mhm.
And that's a lifelong situation. So
Mhm.
find yourself an accountability partner or talk to me about how to create that accountability and make it fun.
Yes.
And
I
as you can,
that.
absolutely, you can do it, as we just saw. That's so cool. In 10 minutes, it gave you that insight.
Yeah, thank you.
Beautiful. So, Mary, you came in late, but are you getting what we're doing? Unmute yourself for a minute. Mary, are you there? Ask to unmute. No? Okay. We're going to have to skip Mary. Ed, what came up for you?
I think to declutter your mind, you have to remove the stresses from your nervous system. So
Yes.
it means a continual, regular meditation program to accomplish this. And I've been doing that, and I will continue to do that through taking advanced meditation techniques, which I've been doing now. So
Wonderful. But all the meditation doesn't help if you don't take action.
well, you are taking action by meditating twice a day. That is your action.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest just falls into place.
So the rest of your house is going to clear up.
Oh, no, that will have to, when you find the time. That's the thing. It's all about priorities, right?
Yeah.
And what's important in your life now.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So where do you want to be next year, a year from now?
Probably
Yep.
further along the path to enlightenment.
Okay, that's your priority.
Yeah.
Then that's your priority. Wonderful. What are you going to do with that enlightenment is always my question for people who want just enlightenment for enlightenment's sake.
Well, enlightenment is a lifelong process or a several lifetime process.
Yeah.
And it'll clearly put you where your focuses are, which is not materialistic. It's the other aspect, the spiritual aspects of life. And that's what I think is important. And too many people are focused on the materialistic aspects, and they totally ignore the spiritual aspects because they
Right.
don't know how to achieve it. Yeah.
Yes, and I hear you loud and clear. Let me add this. If I know myself as a spiritual being,
Right.
I understand myself as that spiritual being, having had the want to incarnate and be here in this lifetime on this planet, using the material environments to impact life and humanity on this planet while I'm here for this lifetime.
Right.
So the next step then is, once you have that spiritual understanding, to again take action in your physical existence. Because, I can do all the non-physical stuff when I'm not here, because in a couple of decades, I won't be here, right?
Right.
So I can do all of that when I'm not on planet Earth, but now I'm here. And here are all my co-humans and all my fellows and friends and sisters and brothers. And I want to use this opportunity of having an earthly experience to see how I can help humanity move forward into a direction, of course, that you and I probably agree needs to become a more peaceful, more joyful, more collaborative world, as opposed to a warring, contradictory, competitive, you either are the master or the slave type of attitude. So
Yeah.
that's what I just wanted to add. It's wonderful to achieve that spiritual understanding. I am an incredible being, but right now you have decided to be Ed Wodinsky on planet Earth,
Mhm.
and you have a job to do to be the best Ed Wodinsky you can ever be.
Right.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Okay.
our atmosphere, your atmosphere affects the people around you.
Yes.
So if you are positive, you send out positive vibes to the people around you. If you are
Yes.
negative, you send out negative vibes. And the goal is for everyone to be sending out positive vibes. And right now in this Earth cycle, there are too many negative people, negative vibes that are going out. And that's what's creating all these wars, tension, and everything. And we've got to reverse that process now.
Yeah. We
People
got
are
to move. Well, I say not reverse because we're
Yeah.
moving forward. Time
Right.
only works in one direction. Yes.
Right.
And we got to take all that old knowledge that we could have and
Right.
use it in order to move humanity forward. Beautiful. All right. And maybe that's your action, to just create peace, peaceful energy in
Right.
your immediate environment. Beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. Now, Janie, we haven't heard from you, and Linda, we haven't heard from you. Can you also share? Linda and Janie. There's
Hi.
Linda. Okay.
Hi,
You-
I actually had just sent a chat that I need to sign off. And I meant to send it to everyone, but I sent it to you, Joanna, but including everyone. Am I still,
Yes, you are on. Mhm.
I don't really have anything to add right now because I have to sign off. I have to leave the meeting.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you, Joanna, and everyone. And it's getting more interesting now too with all this discussion. But I need to go.
All right. You can always listen to the recording.
Okay.
All right. I will send it to you.
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you to everyone who participated.
Bye,
And-
Linda.
Bye-bye. Hope you all have a good rest of your holiday weekend.
Thank
You
you.
too. And thanks for being here.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Ciao. All right. Janie, would you like to participate? And Shirley, are you still with us? That's just if something specific came up for you, where do you want to be next year from now, in a year from now? You'd have to unmute yourself, and if that doesn't work, Shirley, we're going to go to Barbara. Where do you want to be in a year from now? What came up for you?
Okay. I wrote, well, I'm trying to commit myself to a macrobiotic lifestyle.
Mhm.
I hope to have my habits in place, my routines, my cooking routines, and my self-care and exercise, and all the lifestyle that promotes health and well-being. I hope to have them in place, a structure, so that it's easy and natural.
Wonderful. And I can certainly help you put that structure in place if you want. So we should have that 30-minute session, 20-30 minutes.
Okay,
So that there's more clarity on that.
right.
So
And I
Janet
also-
already knows she wants to clean out her attic. And again, we can make that happen in a year or less, as you just saw, right? You don't need the next decade for that, as you suggested. Yeah.
And because I have hoarding disorder problem. I want to have that handled mostly, major improvement by 1 year from now.
Yes.
And that will unburden me and unstress me if I've handled that. And then I want to have more time to do enjoyable things with friends.
Yes. And you know what, Barbara, that's the interesting thing. The hoarding comes out of a lack of spending time with community and friends, and it comes out of a lack of celebrating each other and celebrating life.
Right.
And that is something that I realized also, when I first encountered hoarders in this United States. I came to the United States in 1985, actually from my life in Zimbabwe via Europe again. But yeah, I had just spent 4.5 years in Zimbabwe and worked there and had my business there and was married there. So seeing both the very rural life in Zimbabwe, in even a kraal with round huts, etc., everything is beautifully organized and there's patterns to everything, the way you eat, the way you greet. I learned the greeting and I learned all the sayings. And when you lack that community and those patterns of behavior in not just nuclear family, but a greater communal setting, right? Then those voids that our human needs are filled with stuff.
Right.
Right?
Right.
We accumulate stuff
Right.
instead of accumulating celebrations and experiences.
I agree. So
So-
I'm going to switch it around.
Exactly. So now you're going to get more of that communal celebration with your friends,
Yeah,
and you won't need the other clutter.
exactly. Yes.
Wonderful. All right. Great. Okay. Again, I want to invite everybody to make use of that 30-minute session that you can have with me, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever you need. And I'll send an email out to the people who were here today to invite you to that with a link where you can sign up for a time slot. And of course, check out again how much the whole program of the June Rejuvenation can help you, or which parts can be useful to you. And I will see you all in the next time I see you. And Barbara, for you, I can actually have an in-person meeting with you because you're local. I love that.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
You can come to a potluck dinner at my house or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Okay,
Ed, you are in
wonderful.
Canada, right? In
Yeah.
which part?
Oh, Calgary, Alberta.
Alberta, right.
Yeah.
You have an interesting new governor, right? Is that a governor or?
Oh, a premier. The election is actually tomorrow.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So we'll see.
Interesting. So I hope you get the person that you desire.
Right.
And will do a good job for
Yeah.
more peacefulness and less oppression.
Yeah.
Wonderful. My thoughts are with you there.
Thanks. Yeah.
I've looked into it. Okay. And Mary and Janet and Shirley and everybody else who was here briefly, but whom we didn't see. Let's all continue on this path of learning how to clear, declutter the world around us, because that helps us with the world inside of us. And thank you for being here. It certainly helped me do my little decluttering and get over the crying this morning even more, because that is what happens. We get lost when we are too fogged up. And when we clear we see what the future looks like, or what we want the future to look like, and we can actively move toward it. All right. The next mastermind is going to be on something very mundane in comparison. What's in your raw salad? And that's next Sunday. So if you want to make interesting and cleansing and wonderfully delicious raw salads, join me again next Sunday in What's in Your Raw Salad.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you,
Thanks.
everybody.
Yeah.
Lots of love
Bye.
to y'all. And see you soon. Ciao.
Ciao.
Bye.
Right back at you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.